Catholic TV, America's Catholic television network, is honored to present the Mass from the Basilica of the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception in Washington, D.C., every Saturday at 7 p.m. and 11:30 p.m.
Local and educational. You're watching WLAE-TV, celebrating 40 years of New Orleans public television.
Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
At Villere's Florist, we deliver the magic of flowers 7 days a week to the North Shore and South Shore in the New Orleans area. Whether it's for birthday parties, baby celebrations, Villere's provides colorful floral displays for all. With a store full of fresh-cut flowers, exotic tropical flowers, orchids, roses, and even fruit baskets, our goal is to make your vision a reality. Villere's Florist, proudly serving Louisiana since 1969.
Dave Miette Insurance Agency. Auto, home, flood, business, 504-556-0809. Dave Miette, INSagency.com.
C&C Drugs is a family-owned pharmacy that's been serving Southeast Louisiana for over 50 years. Whether you need help taking care of an elderly family member, a growing child, or even a pet, C&C provides patient-centered care for your entire family. C&C Drugs, large enough to serve you, small enough to know you. Locations in Mandeville and Araby.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Over the next hour, you know we're covering all the home teams. Saints, LSU, Tulane, Pelicans, all on tap. Well, we got a great guest list today on the program. Garland, Gillen of Fox 8 Sports, Jim Derry of NOLA.com, The Attitude Podcast. This ought to be a good one. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us. I mean, we thawed out from the storm.
Yes.
I know y'all got hit pretty good on the North Shore, but you know, the weather's nice and warm. Now we're ready for the Super Bowl.
Well, you've definitely thawed out because you won St. Charles Avenue, and again, the shenanigans that were happening on St. Charles Avenue were again all-time comedy.
Yeah, people know where I was,
right?
And so they figured it out. And the Tulane kids brought out their snowboards, their skis. I mean, I had shirtless runners. I had guy dressed as Santa Claus.
No.
And I was like, what are you doing? And he goes, oh, I had a Santa Claus suit in the closet. And I'm like, you know what? This is the great night to do it. I'll say this, it was the skinniest Santa I've ever seen. I told Santa he needs to put on a few pounds there.
Then come hang out with me.
Over-under shots you had while you were out there that day, 3.5. We put the over-under on 3.5. I took the over, but I was kind of, so did I win or not?
Over-under like how many live shots I did?
No, not live shots. I mean like shots.
Well, I will say this. The kids at the boot were way more cordial than the guys at Miss Mays. The people at Miss Mays had been there since 10 in the morning,
right,
and they were quite inebriated when I went there for a live shot at almost 7 o'clock. I had to get out of there after one live shot.
Right.
After I did a live shot at Kingpin, I did drink a Miller High Life.
Well, and last question on that. How did you get that and Fazan got Grand Isle? That's what I wanted to know.
And Kincaid's on the lakefront getting blown away.
Exactly. And Madeline was in Long Beach,
right,
Mississippi. You know what? I did not say a word. My assistant news director gave me those things.
Right.
I will say this. I lived like 10 blocks from where I went live, so I think they were going for safety. So they knew I could just walk out of my house and walk down the block.
And they didn't have to put you in a hotel.
Right. Yeah, because Fazan and those guys drove down to Grand Isle on Monday before the snow hit. So they stayed there 3 days in Grand Isle.
I would have taken.
I'd
have walked the 10 blocks.
No doubt. Yeah. With that said, tell us about everything you're involved in at Fox 8, the podcast, the blog, Garland Avenue, all of it.
Yeah, Garland Avenue. I'm probably do another one tomorrow there. That's where I just give my takes in the week. I got football food. I'll write one of those probably tomorrow. I had a good deep dish pizza uptown, and we got all of our shows coming. Super Bowl editions next week. We're doing a 6 to 6:30 show Monday through Saturday, and then that adds on our other sports shows next week. We're all working 7 days next week, so
the schedule. All Super Bowl related next week?
All Super Bowl related. I mean, the amount of emails I've been getting every day from like 20 events per day. I mean, Leonard Fournette's building a house.
Right.
Shaquille O'Neal has his fun house. Like every day they're asking us to cover all these events.
Yes.
And my job is like just cutting down through the fat and only getting us to like 1 or 2 scheduled appearances per day.
Beautiful. Jim, tell us about the podcast.
I don't know, but if I was still 30 years old, I would like line up all these things and I just have a ball on Saturday,
Right.
the day before the Super Bowl, all the stuff that's going on. Yeah, it's going to be a 7-day-a-week for me thing.
You'll be at Radio Row next week, right?
I am going to be on Radio Row next week. We'll do the Datitude podcast. Monday, we're switching our time. We normally go Monday, Wednesday, Friday, live at 11 a.m. Next week it's going to be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday at 1 p.m. Because the NOLA Insiders guys have, we got one table. They get priority. They're going from 9 to 12 every day. So it will be a bunch of busy days, but we're going to have fun with it. And I'm looking forward to it. And I'm on your show every Monday afternoon. Every now and then Garland asks me to come on. So we're staying busy.
Right. Final bet?
Final bet. We have Scott Kushner on this week. He's very emotional about his thoughts on the Pelicans
about
and
the
Saints.
Pelicans. Yeah.
Yes, very emotional. So I like emotion on the air. So
well, maybe we'll have some here. Who knows?
Well, we might have a little emotion today, just a bit. We'll start with the New Orleans Saints again, and the search for a head coach, which has been quite a debacle so far. Again, not what was expected, but maybe what should have been expected when you look at it. Garland, I'll start with you. Your thoughts on, again, how this has been handled.
Joe Brady, I think that was a miss, him not even interviewing for the job of getting in there. I assume that Cliff Kingsbury, I don't know if he had a legitimate shot. When he bowed out, who knows? Mike McCarthy might have bowed out because Saints just were disinterested, or he might have an inkling that Kellen Moore might be up there. I think it hurt that Aaron Glenn said no thanks. I mean, Vrabel and Ben Johnson those were just pipe dreams. Those weren't going to happen. Right now, I feel like the organization has a little egg on their face with how this has gone. But if Kellen Moore is that guy, then maybe they can spin all this and say, this is the guy we wanted all along. Like they pulled that same thing in 2006 when Sean Payton was, third or fourth on the list?
Right.
I mean, I can't even remember who was 1 or 2, but I do remember Sean Payton was the first guy.
Right.
So maybe they can spin it that way.
I'm not used to playing the role of the positive spin guy.
Positive guy.
I don't even really know if I know how to do this, but
But you gonna give it a shot?
I've said it all along. I'm not changing my tune now.
Right.
I think that there's so much overblown about the Saints are just this farce. It's just such a joke. Mickey Loomis, blah, 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 all this stuff. I think the Saints are playing this thing out and making sure they get the right candidate. I think obviously there's no question that they wanted Aaron Glenn first. I think everyone knows that. Aaron Glenn chose the Jets. It's not an egg on the Saints' face because he chose the Jets. He played for the Jets for a long period of time, for 8 or 9 years. He coached for the Jets. It's not a surprise that he wanted to go back to the Jets. The Saints then turned their sights on Mike McCarthy and probably got in a game of chicken. Mike McCarthy didn't want to play the game of chicken. They were looking at Kellen Moore anyway, and here we are. So it's not that big of a deal. I mean, for me, I think Joe Brady probably pulled out because somewhere in the agent stratosphere found out he wasn't getting the job. We're not interested in you, Joe Brady. Okay. Well, I mean, if you're going to pull out because you don't want to be a part of that, you're not going to wait till 2.5 weeks into the search. You're going to do it right off, right? Or at least a week in. No, Joe Brady pulled out 2.5 weeks in. Like Garland said, Cliff Kingsbury was never a real candidate. Here we are with Kellen Moore. If it's not Kellen Moore, I got to eat paper on my live show. So I promised, if it wasn't McCarthy or Moore, I said this a week ago, I would eat paper live on the show. You want to see that if it's not Kellen Moore. So I think that's where we are. And I think Kellen Moore is a fine choice. He's a little young. I know you have some reservations that we'll talk about, but look, I think the Saints need to go young, and they need to get revitalization, and they need to get some energy, not just from their coach, but energy into their play. And I think they need to change everything.
Garland, your thoughts on Jim's take?
Kellen Moore, if they can get him, then I'm fine with that. Joe Brady, I really think he was a legitimate candidate. I really think that he had a shot to get this job. That's one where I think he had a better shot. Aaron Glenn, I understand. The bad part with Aaron Glenn, though, is the Jets haven't made the playoffs in 14 years in the 4 major sports in North America. That is the worst playoff drought in the 4 major sports. for him to say no to the Saints and go to the Jets, I understand he played for them, but that's a pretty sad situation for the Saints that he's like, yeah, I want to play for that dysfunctional organization with a horrible owner that gets involved in every situation in Woody Johnson.
Well,
so
let me ask this then. If, let's say, Drew Brees became a candidate to be a coach, and it became down to going to the Saints or the Chargers, and he picked the Saints, would anyone say that? No, it's the same kind of thing for Aaron Glenn. He played a vast majority of his career for the Jets, and if Drew Brees ever became a coach and he didn't coach the Saints, I think people would think that's weird. So, I mean, that's not really any different.
He also mentioned, again, his family loved New York. Okay, so that was probably, again, part of this as well. Look, I don't think anyone needs to be upset by the fact that Glenn ended up going to New York. It is what it is. We knew it was going to be either probably the Saints or the Jets. I'm a little surprised, again, Woody Johnson saying now he's going to change as an owner. Yeah. Look, he hasn't changed as an owner since he's owned the Jets. No. So how do you think he's going to change now? So it'll be interesting to see how that is. I agree with Garland. Kingsbury, again, who knows if he was even going to be in the mix here? But again, the Joe Brady saying no, thank you before you get to the interview outside of the virtual interview. To me, that's telling. And again, I think it's where
you don't think it's weird that like later on if they said, oh, we don't want you, Joe Brady. I mean, wouldn't you rather be the one to say, I don't want.
And most agents will let their
happens all the time.
Their client know, look, it's not going to happen. We need to put a statement out saying that we're pulling out, and I get that. But again, when you look at what was left on that list. Okay, with McCarthy, Joe Brady, supposedly Kingsbury. Obviously, again, we knew that Glenn was gone. And, of course, Kellen Moore was on that list. Most people, again, probably thought that Brady was probably either 2 or 3 in that hierarchy.
Yeah, and I will say this. OC coaches around the NFL should not be this choosy about head coaching jobs. If you want to look where it can backfire on you, is Bobby Slowick, the OC. He was the OC for the Houston Texans. Last year, he got a few interviews for head coaching jobs, didn't get them. He got fired last week by the Houston Texans, and they made it to the divisional round of the playoffs. I will say that C.J. Stroud got hit almost as much as any other quarterback in the league. So the Joe Bradys of the world and Cliff Kingsbury world. There might be something better out there, but you need to kind of watch yourself because if there's one bad season on your offense,
that's right.
you might be back. They were complaining about Joe Brady's play calling in the Chiefs game about how he was deciding what they were just doing quarterback sneaks instead of the tush push.
I got to be honest with you. I was not a fan of Joe Brady being the next head coach of the New Orleans Saints. And again, a lot of it has to do with lack of experience. Now I'm surprised that an offensive coordinator would turn down a job if it was offered. Or again, at least.
Which is why I don't think that he really.
Right.
I think that's why common sense tells you that he pulled out because he knew he wasn't getting the job. I mean, there are only 32 of these, and I get that he's young and he'll probably get another chance. But what happens if the Bills regress? I mean, what happens if next year?
Right.
I mean, we've seen the Bills.
Saying.
So it could happen easily. So you take the job when you get a chance.
Right.
All these people saying so and so didn't want the job, Kingsbury didn't want the job, this guy didn't want the job. They all want jobs. Okay. Again, I don't care how bad the situation is. They all have egos anyway. Even if it's a quote unquote bad job, they think they can change it and make it. They can make it better. Just why Jim Mora came here in the first place. Why Sean Payton came here. Because they all thought they could change it. And guess what? Those two guys did.
Right. Now, again, to me, Kellen Moore is Mickey Loomis's Hail Mary. It's got to work here. Because if not, who's your fallback? Your fallback is Darren Rizzi?
No.
Or are you going with Kafka? Are you going with Weaver? I mean, at that point, again, if you were to save face in this.
Can't save face. If they don't get Kellen Moore, they're not going to. Look, I'm going to change my tune. And if they don't get Kellen Moore, I'm changing my tune. But if they have to go to a fallback, because there's no question that Kafka, Weaver, and Rizzi are all three of those guys a fallback.
And I would think Rizzi would be their first choice on that. But
I actually don't.
You don't?
I don't. I think Kafka would be the first choice.
Really?
That's not the one I would choose.
Okay. And why?
Because I think they had an 9-hour interview with Kafka, so they obviously are interested in him, at least to some expect.
And he has
I would choose Weaver out of those three guys, right? Even though he's a defensive guy, because I'm not a fan of Rizzi at all. I don't think Rizzi is a head coach candidate. I think he proved his time here. Some of the decisions he made, the way he acted on the sideline, all sorts of things, to me eliminates Rizzi and Kafka. was an offensive coordinator for Daniel Jones. So by process of elimination, my choice is Anthony Weaver of those three.
Thoughts?
Yeah. I don't know if I could handle Darren Rizzi being the head coach full time because Bill Simmons has a famous podcast. They call him the Clogger. I mean, his first press conference, he talked about blowing up the toilet after they won a game. I mean, that's just not professional talk. I mean, we have fun on these shows, but I'm not going that in depth on my personal life. Sometimes you got to learn a lesson. So I could hear the Clogger for the next few years. I can't handle that. Right. I think Rizzi is a great special teams coach, and I think he'll get another one of those jobs. I don't think he's head coach material, but if Kellen Moore says no and he changes his mind, I think just next season. You just cut Derek Carr, you take the $51 million dead cap hit, you just blow this thing up and tell that coach she's got 2 or 3 years, and next year could just be a mess.
I would think any coach that's taken this job with, again, the issues with, again, the top-heavy cap in terms of, again, the older players getting the majority of the cap space. You look at, again, being over the cap for this season. It gets a little bit better next year and the following year if they don't kick the can down the road. The quarterback situation with Derek Carr, that whoever's coming in is going to get a long rope.
Yeah, I would think so. And I keep going back and forth with this whole Derek Carr situation. If it's Kellen Moore, I mean, he had some success with Justin Herbert, but he only got 1 year to do it.
Right.
Having great success this year with Jalen Hurts, both mobile quarterbacks. Right. If Kellen Moore's the guy, I could definitely see them just dumping Derek Carr.
No. Not a chance in hell.
No.
You think Kellen Moore's going to come in here and attach his wagon to Spencer Rattler? Are you crazy?
Or they're a top 10 pick or draft a quarterback.
Who? Cam Ward's going to be gone. Shedeur Sanders is going to be gone. Who are you going to attach your wagon to?
I'll tell you who they would. Jackson Dart.
Man.
You're going to be all right, man?
No, I'm not going to be all right. I am getting emotional because if this is, I mean, look, what you what you're saying makes sense. But God, if they do that, it's going to be like a year's worth of torture. My head's going to blow up.
How much difference do you think there is between Rattle and Dart?
I mean, I know for sure that Spencer Rattler is not an NFL quarterback. I saw plenty to know he's not an NFL quarterback. Jackson Dart, maybe I have this bias because he's an Ole Miss guy. I don't know. But I just don't see the Saints. They're not, and I get a new coach going to come in here and is going to have his say. I don't see Mickey Loomis allowing that to happen. I don't think I think there's very little chance that Derek Carr is going to. Now, they may draft Jackson Dart,
right?
But I don't see them cutting Derek Carr and saying we're going to eat $50 million. I just don't see. You might as well eat the $50 million this year, keep him, let him play out the year, and then if you want to get rid of him, get rid of him. But
you still got to eat, but then you still have to carry some of his salary next year.
Yeah, but it's not
dump him.
No, if you eat the money now, you don't have to spread it out across 2 years. You can make it $26 million this year and $25 million next year, or you can eat $51 million this year. I think they should just eat the $51 million this year and put themselves in the spot that Eric's talking about, because the cap situation gets a whole lot better. There's a lot of salaries coming off the book after this year. Just eat the $50 million, play with what you got, with who you got, whoever the coach is. Say, look, after this coming, you're going to have to play with this year, and then after this year, we can talk about revamping everything, because I think that's what it's going to be.
Garland?
I don't think they're going to be a playoff team with Derek Carr, Spencer Rattler, Jackson Dart, you name it. I just don't see it this coming year.
Right.
So it's all going to come. Mickey Loomis said, I'm assuming he's a man of his word, that the new coach would have the final say on if Derek Carr is staying or going. So
you believe that?
Well, I mean, I believe that Gail Benson and them will let him do whatever he wants. I still got to kick this whole regular season that fans actually thought that Mickey was going to be gone. Yeah. I mean, they were just no chance.
Look,
so.
I mean, again, I've been leading the parade, okay, but I know what the situation is at Airline Drive, and it was probably not going to happen. Should it have happened in any other NFL city? It would have happened.
I don't know about every other. He leaves.
Okay, maybe not in Dallas.
Not in Dallas. Yeah, Stephen Jones isn't going anywhere.
He leaves when he wants to leave. It's going to be that way until he's ready to leave, and it might be next year. It might be 10 years from now. I don't think anyone knows.
Right. Let's talk about Kellen Moore. And your thoughts on him as a head coach moving from an offensive coordinator position into a head coaching position. You take it first.
Well, I do like his pedigree. I do like that he was. He did play in the NFL, not well, but he was a great quarterback at Boise State. Right. He's worked in some tough situations. Working for the Cowboys is not easy. Okay. It's just the constant meddling from the ownership. I think it was a tough situation with the Chargers. He's friends with Brandon Staley, went to Los Angeles, was only 1 year, and now he's in Philadelphia, which they expect you to win there. And I think I thought he did a fantastic job play calling this past week against the Commanders. We thought that Jalen Hurts was injured and he wasn't going to be able to throw the ball downfield and run. He did all that. It was a nice mixture of the run and pass. With the options out there now, I think Kellen Moore is the best available guy, and he's a younger guy. And hey, you struck good with another young offense coordinator. Well, I wouldn't call Sean Payton young, but younger.
Yes.
First-time guy. You're running out of options.
When they hired him, he was young.
Yeah.
Yes, he was. No, he was. He was one of the younger coaches out.
Yeah.
Look, I think that, to Garland's point, not only did he work in Dallas for Jerry Jones, but he worked for 2 different head coaches. He started there with Jason Garrett. They weren't very good. They were kind of like in Saints land. They had gone through a few mediocre seasons. They got rid of Jason Garrett. They brought in Mike McCarthy. McCarthy says, you know what, we'll keep you. And he actually called the plays. McCarthy decided at some point, I want to call the plays. What does that mean? It means Kellen Moore's got to leave. As Garland says, the only reason why he left the Chargers is a change of coach. So, the big beef, the big knock on him that McCarthy had was that he wanted to, quote unquote, light up the scoreboard. Well, that's a bad thing. You want your offensive coordinator, you don't want him to light up the scoreboard. That's, So the fact that they said he can't run the ball, well, it helps when you get Saquon Barkley. Right. But the Eagles were second in the league in running the football this year, only second to the Ravens, who had Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. Right. So look, I think Kellen Moore has done a lot of good things. I think he's proven he's ready for the next step. Again, being an OC since 2019, going in 6 years later, I think he's ready to be a head coach. The only thing that worries me is, and I've said this on my show, you and I both said this, the next coach is going to have a lot of say on personnel. It's not going to be like Dennis Allen, who I don't think had a lot of say on personnel. I think Mickey is actually going to be more of a let's let you be like Sean Payton. Is Kellen Moore ready for that at age 36 or 37? We're going to find out, because I think he's going to be the coach and he's going to have to be ready. But they need somebody young. They need young blood.
Garland, do you believe what Jim is saying, that again that he's going to have the type of power that Sean Payton had over personnel if he is the head coach? You think Mickey's willing to give that power up to a guy that's never been a head coach? See, I think that Sean Payton earned that after getting to the NFC Championship in year 1.
Yeah, because Mickey did that first draft in 06, okay? His hands were all over it. It was one of the best drafts the Saints ever had. But then I think Sean Payton took over a lot of those personnel decisions. I don't think Kellen Moore, maybe if he really wants a quarterback, then maybe that would be something. But other than that, I think that Mickey Loomis and Jeff Ireland and those guys are going to run that draft.
Y'all think Sean Payton ever, and I mean ever with a capital EVER, answered to Mickey Loomis?
No.
And I'm talking about in 2006.
No. I do 06. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I think in 06 it was more a collaborative situation.
Maybe
it
was more.
I think after 06, after he went to the NFC Championship.
I think the only people Sean Payton have ever answered to in his life are his daddy and Bill Parcells, and there ain't anybody else out there that has ever answered to. That's my opinion.
All right. Kellen Moore, is he ready to be a head coach? See, for me, it is. I was looking, and Jim and I talked about it on his show the other day. I was looking for leader of men, master motivator. Obviously, again, it's a given, the organization, having been organized, having the right scheme, etc. I went, as soon as they were getting ready to fly to Philly, I went back and looked at Kellen Moore press conferences going all the way back to the Chargers, Dallas, etc. He just doesn't come off as a guy that's going to command the room. And again, I think the next Saints coach doesn't only have to command the locker room, he's got to command the building like Payton did. Your thoughts?
Well, we'll say this. He has watched what Nick Sirianni has dealt with this year. They want to fire Nick Sirianni during the season. So he, I think, has a 101 in crisis control. He watched it. He watched Brandon Staley get fired the year before that. He watched McCarthy deal with the Jones family. So I think crisis management, he gets like an A+. Like he has seen all the bad in the NFL. Ben Johnson, I've watched his pressers and everything. You know, everybody thought he was like a kind of nerdy brainiac guy, but I think he's kind of, now that he's the head guy, I saw there's a video with him with the Bears. He's kind of pumping everybody up. I think that Kellen Moore can kind of change his stripes a little. If they're winning and he's dialing up big time plays, I think that he can grow into this role.
Have you seen Liam Cohen's Duval?
Right,
You could do worse. Look, I will say this: your point is valid. It does worry me a little bit. So yes, I mean, I think that is a very valid point. But like Garland said, I mean, if you can deal with crises in Dallas and in Philadelphia, and I think dealt with them very well, then I think you can deal with a crisis in here in New Orleans. So I'm ready to give them a shot.
How much turnover in the roster you see in this first year? I mean, I would guess about a third over the next couple of years, because Moore's going to want to bring his guys in eventually. And look, let's face it, that's been a poisonous locker room. That's not the same culture that Peyton left. That culture's been dismantled over the last couple of years. You got to come in and again reinstill a culture. Start your own culture when you get in.
Yeah, Tyrann Mathieu, Cam Jordan, Demario Davis, I don't see a world where all three of them are back on that team.
Me too.
Not saying any of those guys are bad dudes. I think they're all good locker room guys and everything, but they're aging, they're on contracts. With free agency, you're probably going to have to just let Paulson and Debo, Juwan, I don't know about Juwan Johnson, maybe they try to get him back, Paulson, Debo. I'm intrigued to see what they're going to do with Chase Young, try to bring him back. But you're right, there's going to be a lot of different, the Mark Simoneaus of the world that Sean Payton brought in from Philadelphia.
Shanley.
Yeah, some more locker room guys, yes. I think there's going to be a lot of roster turnover with this team, and some of these veterans that we know all too well that have become household names in New Orleans, they're not all going to be back. And Cam Jordan next week is up for Man of the Year, so like he's one of the good guys, but they might move on from him.
Yeah, well, again, I think it's like $3 million is the difference in the cap hit for him. I mean, that's almost like you almost want to keep a guy like that for that. But again, look, he wants to finish his career here. We'll see if it ends up happening. If it's me, I'm looking to try to get to. I've never won a Super Bowl. I want to go where I can win a Super Bowl. Okay, then again, and I'm sure the Saints would acquiesce if that was possible.
I don't think he wants to leave though.
Right.
He's
No,
not like
he
when
doesn't.
Ricky Jackson left.
Right.
Ricky Jackson didn't really want to leave, and he went to San Francisco. He's like, I can go win a Super Bowl, and did.
Right.
And then came back and lived in New Orleans. So I mean, Cam Jordan's different. Cam Jordan, to me, has earned the right to leave when he wants to leave.
I agree with that.
And I don't think the Saints organization is going to do anything to change that. But I do agree with Garland. I mean, you can't have all of these guys. You have to find a way to get rid of. I don't, get rid of is kind of an awful word, awful phrase, I guess. But you do have to change the culture a little bit. And part of your concern, Eric, I think what you're not considering is Dennis Allen was such a pushover.
Yes.
I mean, he was like the pushover of pushovers.
Right. I
think anyone coming in, and I'm not trying to be mean to Dennis Allen, but I think anyone coming in, I think they're going to respect that person more than they respected Dennis Allen. And look, to the players' credit, you talk about those three guys that you mentioned, I think they all got together and you say, you know what? The season didn't end well last year. Let's give them a chance. And I think coming into this year, they legitimately said, those three guys got on board and said, you got to get with me, trust me, we're going to do this thing, get on board. And they tried to give Dennis Allen another chance, and it just didn't work. Excuse me, it just didn't work. So I think that anybody coming in is going to get more respect than the previous administration, which is why they want Rizzy, because Rizzy came in and he had a different mindset, and that I do appreciate. But, some of these
and a different person, it's another thing, and I mentioned this on your show the other day, and I mentioned it on my show as well. I think that, again, this is my opinion. I think Mickey Loomis doesn't want another big personality in the building. Peyton took over the building, okay? Again, look at the last two. Obviously, you look at Allen, not a big personality. Kellen Moore doesn't look like he's that big personality that takes over an entire organization.
Yeah, I guess you could say owners own, general managers manage, maybe coaches coach.
Right.
Mickey Loomis probably doesn't want a guy that's going to challenge his authority. Sean Payton and Mickey Loomis butted heads to the point where, some people have told me that Sean, yes, he might have been burned out, but he was also just getting tired of dealing with Mickey Loomis and wanted something new and took a year off and then got with the Broncos.
Well, plus he saw what was coming too. He saw cap hell.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah. There's
and his Hall of Fame quarterback was retired.
Yeah, Jameis Winston just isn't the same as Drew Brees. There's a lot of issues, but one of those is butting heads with Mickey Loomis.
Your thoughts?
I
know you don't buy it.
I just think there's way too much being put on Mickey Loomis. I'm not defending Mickey Loomis for. Look, has this been? We've gone through some bad times here, okay? But it's not as bad as people think it is. I mean, it's only been 4 years. 2 of those were winning years. They won 9 games in 2 of the last 4 years that everyone's saying, it's so awful.
But the fan base is full now. The fan base wants playoffs. They want postseason.
I get that the fan base
Super Bowl.
But I keep putting myself in the shoes of when we were growing up. And we watched it. We couldn't even watch the Saints when they were at home because they were blacked out because they wouldn't sell out. And I mean, if they were like a Mike Lansford field goal away from going 9-7 and having that first winning season ever, and we thought that was like the greatest thing ever. I mean, I don't want to go back to those days, and they could go back to those days if they don't fix it in a hurry. But it's still not as bad as people think it is. It's only been 4 years, and again, 2 of those were winning seasons. It's not that bad. Everybody chill. Let's see what happens with this new coach.
Again, this is a big one because, again, they've got all their eggs now in Kellen Moore's basket.
They do.
This has got to work for them. If not, again, then you're going back to your fallback guys, whoever that would be, whether that be. And I've always thought it would be Rizzi. Thought Rizzi was going to be their fallback guy, but maybe it's Kafta, maybe it's Weaver. We'll see how that plays out. Will's going to be in my ear for a second because I'm going to take one more question to both guys. All right. Senior Bowl week, East-West Shrine game, draft is coming up. It's too early for me to ask about the draft, but in my opinion, you have to strengthen the trenches. You have to get offensive linemen, you have to get defensive linemen. That has to be a priority. What do you feel the Saints' priority is?
Well, yes, a definite edge rusher. I've been watching a lot of video of Mike Green from Marshall. If you just type in Mike Green on X, you'll see him just absolutely knock over an Oregon offensive lineman. Offensive lineman draft picks, I'm sure the people at home right now are just like rolling over right now.
But they needed and necessary.
Yeah, I understand it's a necessary thing. But yeah, guys that get into the quarterback and O linemen are gonna be a need. And receiver. Every year we're talking. I know it's every year. It's only been 2 years, but Rashid Shaheed is just an injury-prone guy. You got an Olave.
Will he ever play again?
Yeah, I think he will play again. He practiced into the year, but Olave's got concussion problems. And then after that, you got third, fourth, five guys. None of those guys set the world on fire. Taysom Hill, is he going to recover from another leg injury? So yeah, there's guys that need to hit the quarterback, protect the quarterback, and somebody's got to catch the ball from the quarterback.
This is why I don't think there's any. I don't want to say there's any chance. There's no chance that common sense dictates that they're going to draft Jackson Dart. Because I think you have to use that first draft pick with you. I mean, I've been saying it for 3 years. They finally listened. They went and got Fuaga last year, but it's too late. You've got to go get another offensive lineman, in my opinion. I'm okay with defensive line because that's almost as big of a need now. In my opinion, I still think offensive line is the biggest need, but defensive line it's got so bad that, okay, if you want to go get one. But I think you need to spend your first 2 picks in this draft on offensive line, defensive line. If you want to switch the order, make a defensive line, offensive line, fine. But you can't go chasing this guy could be a good quarterback. You can't do that in the first round of this draft because you don't have the luxury. You're not in a best player available mode right now.
I would agree. And you don't have the cap room to go out and spend on offense and defensive linemen because they're too expensive.
Exactly.
So you have to build them through the draft. There's no other way around it. Guys, again, we'll take a break here. Garland, Gillen, Fox 8 Sports. Jim Derry of, again, the Attitude Podcast, NOLA.com are our guest. I'm your host, Eric Asher. We'll come back. We'll talk a little basketball in this next segment. You're watching Inside New Orleans Sports. Stay tuned.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar.
Burke Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration has been family-owned and operated since 1989. Burkhart has energy-efficient solutions and offers brands such as Mitsubishi ductless AC units and Amana, the only manufacturer with a lifetime unit replacement warranty. Burkhart's offers maintenance bundle packages that include servicing your AC, generator, and tankless water heater. For more information on the services Burkhart's provides, visit acpromise.com. Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration, providing comfort for life.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. Jim Derry of NOLA.com, the Attitude Podcast. Garland, Gillen of Fox 8 Sports are our guests. Guys, before we talk basketball, let's talk about the Super Bowl matchup. Chiefs versus Eagles on Fox 8 in the Super Bowl. Your thoughts?
Chiefs and Eagles I had a bet last week. You're going to love this one.
Okay.
I did Chiefs, Eagles to make the Super Bowl was plus 153, and my reasoning was I don't want to see either one of those teams in New Orleans. And Juan started heckling on there, laughing so hard, because I wanted to see Commanders and Bills. So I told Juan, if the two teams that I don't want coming to New Orleans come, that means I won money. And if the Bills or Commanders are here, then I can live with losing $100. So instead, I got a nice little payday on Sunday.
Beautiful.
It's a great matchup. I will say that.
It is.
It's gonna be a great game. It was 38-35 last time. I'm done with the Chiefs. I understand this is a dynasty and all that great stuff. I'd rather have seen other teams, but hey, I don't play on either one of the teams. I can't control anything. Right. I can just cover who's in there. But it is a great matchup. It's just not the matchup I wanted.
Me too.
Okay, well, I like being on the other side. I think these are the two best teams going into January, and I'm talking about before the playoffs started.
Right.
I said the two best teams in the NFL right now are the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles, and they're coming to New Orleans. Everybody was saying, oh, no, it's Baltimore. Why is it different? Oh, it's not different.
No.
They lost to Buffalo. Oh, Buffalo, Kansas City, it's going to be different this time. Why is it different? Oh, no, it's not any different. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is the best player on the planet. Kansas City is the best team in football. Well, now maybe Philadelphia can rise up, and because I think Saquon Barkley has an argument. Maybe he can go for 150 yards in the Super Bowl and say, maybe I'm the best. Maybe I should have got MVP. But look, I think you have the two guys who are the best players in the league right now. I think it's Saquon Barkley and Patrick Mahomes. They're on the other sides, and I think it's going to be a whole lot of fun. It's too hard to pick. I always say don't bet against God, so I'll probably end up going with Kansas City. Ask me next week, but like Garland said, I mean, 38-35. If we have that again, sign me up.
Yeah, no, I think I think these are the two probably the best teams. I'm just saying.
I know why you're sick of it, and I get most people are sick of it, and the whole conspiracy theory and the refs cheat for Kansas City.
I'm not saying that.
No, I know you're not, but I'm saying the whole conspiracy theory. My son's been blowing up my phone all week with it's proof because it's on Instagram. That the refs are cheating. They got it on Instagram, so it's proof. But look, I'm just excited about this matchup because. Bucket list. All the things I've done in my career. I spent a lot of my career on a copy desk. So I've actually never been able to go to a Super Bowl. This is going to be the first one I ever go to. I'm ever present for. Okay. So I'm pretty excited about it, and I'm glad it's Mahomes against Jalen Hurts, and so I think it's going to be fun.
Well, I've only been to one, and it was the one that everybody wanted to go to. That was 09 in Miami, which was a wonderful thing, no doubt. All right, let's talk some Pelicans. Interesting, Will Guillory just put out on X, again, Zion talking about not playing back-to-backs, that physically he is able to play back-to-backs, but again, that the organization does not want him playing back-to-backs. And so basically, again, that's why the situation, we're not seeing him on the floor. Thoughts?
Does he have a leg to stand on? I mean, is he showing up to...
see him? Was it his legs?
No. Well, I mean, it's a figure of speech, but I know. I mean, did the practice today, did he show up on time?
Right.
I think that he has no power at all on decisions with the Pelicans, on their decisions, because he is yet to act like an adult. Late for team flights, late for practices. This is like teenage stuff. This is for kids, okay?
Right.
So,
and he's 24.
Yeah.
And he basically stole his first contract. I mean, literally, again. Okay, that first contract, again, the Pelicans got little or nothing out of him.
Yeah, I think he's just complaining to complain because, I mean, Willie Green called him out, said it wasn't the first time that he missed the practice. I think I can see what the Pelicans are also doing here. It makes sure that they're guaranteeing themselves a bottom 3 finish, which gives them a 14% chance to get that first pick.
Right.
And they don't want to see him get injured again. Like this season is a wash. Okay, they're not making the playoffs.
Right.
They want to preserve Zion Williamson and make sure that he's ready to go for next season. If this is something that'll make sure that he's going to be there next year, I'm fine with it. I honestly think Zion Williamson needs to just go out there and play when he's told to play, because he lost all stature in the organization when he decided to keep showing up late for team meetings and practices.
I'm not trying to lessen the importance of the Pelicans with my Fox 8 guy right here, who they just got the rights to the Pelicans this year. Not the best year to get the rights to the Pelicans, that's for sure. But I'm going to say my 2 words on Zion is who cares? I'm over him. I mean, you are who you are. You know, we give you the first year, even the second year. You basically played 1 season in New Orleans, and every year we keep saying you got to save him so we get ready for next year. It's going to be it's not going to be next year. I mean, this is the same old story. I'm getting sick and tired of talking about Zion Williams. Get rid of him already. Send him somewhere. I don't care where you send him to Cambodia. I don't care where you send him. Get him out of New Orleans. I'm sick of talking about this story because it's not even a story anymore. Every time it comes, this time he's saying this about the Pelicans. I don't care what he's saying. I mean, the Pelicans are basically treating him like the Saints treated Chris Olave at the end and should have. There's absolutely no reason to play Chris Olave at the end, even though maybe he could have come back in that last game, last 2 games if it were important. There's no reason to play Zion Williamson right now. You're 12 and 30, whatever you are.
12 and 36.
12 and 36. I mean, you've got 3 times as many losses as wins. Who cares if he plays or not?
Biggest tease in sports, Zion Williamson.
No doubt about. Look, he could be the most talented player in the NBA,
but still the biggest tease in sports because he's never available.
It's a shame.
And he's immature.
You know, and they keep talking about trading Brandon Ingram. I mean, quit talking about it. Either do it or don't. And I mean,
that's my next question. Will they get that done by next Thursday?
They've already probably dropped the ball not getting rid of him a year ago.
Exactly. That's what it should have happened.
Now they're talking about trading him for some second-round picks so you can get under the luxury tax.
Right.
This is another terrible move by David Griffin. I think David Griffin wanted to keep him around because he traded for him and wanted to make it seem like he was the smartest guy in the room. And look, this guy I traded for, he's looking fantastic. Well, he's just another injury-prone player on the Pelicans right now, and David Griffin, Willie Green, right now are both probably fighting for their jobs.
Yeah, man, and that's the issue here. You cannot build a team around 2 superstars who are injury-prone, and that's the issue with the Pelicans.
It's not just that. You're talking about 2. All right, so Zion Williamson, I like his energy, but he's too young to be a leader. I mean, who on this team? We've been talking about this for 2 years.
Right.
Who on this team is you like? This is your guy. This is the guy. This is my DeMario Davis. Who's their DeMario Davis on this team?
Well, again, C.J. McCollum was brought in to
yeah, but he's not. He's a low key.
Right, but he was in to teach them how to be professionals, right?
Right, but he's not the guy that's going to
rile
them
Murray.
Murray's.
That's why Murray was brought in. Murray was the point guard. He's brought in now to be.
And then he got hurt.
Right, he's brought in to be the leader of the team now. Okay, but they've been trying to import leaders ever since they had Anthony Davis.
Well, maybe that goes to you're talking about is Kellen Moore a leader of men? I got to question it at this point. I hate to question it because I really like the guy and I thought he was going to be a great coach, and maybe he will be someday. But is Willie Green the leader of men?
Right. Well,
I mean, you have to ask that question now, right? I mean, what are we? This is the 4th year of this. I mean, you have to ask the question. I mean, and I hate that because again, I think he's going to be a good coach one day, but I guess that's the risk you take when you do hire someone that's so young.
It's so hard. It's hard to put a lot of this on Willie Green when, again, every time you turn around, Brandon Ingram's out for 4 months. Zion's out for 3 months. You're in a situation now where, again, they got a pretty good team on the floor, but now you're hoping, again, last night they played well. And really, if there's a tank game, that's the way you want it, right? Play well, be entertaining for the fans, and then lose the game at this point.
Does anyone ever want to talk about the training staff because
we talk, but Jim, we've talked about it for years.
Well, I know, but
and they keep changing it and they can't figure it out.
Yeah, Zion got the last guy fired. Okay, Nelson, the guy they got from Phoenix.
Aaron Nelson was looked at as, again, the greatest trainer in the history of the NBA.
I'm talking about the training, the medical training staff, the ones that are over both teams.
Well, obviously something has to change. And look,
they don't want to change
anything.
Wait a minute.
Mickey Loomis said, David Griffin said that they went all in trying to figure out what's going on. Again, why everybody's coming up with these soft tissue injuries? They can't figure it out.
Is it a coincidence that both teams are getting the similar injuries all over the place?
I don't know if it's a coincidence or not. Again, guys, is it not preparing for the season? Is it the medical staff? Is it what they're doing in season? We're out here. They're inside. We have no idea. But again, it's not working.
We're seeing these injuries happen early in seasons on both teams. It's happening right away. I mean, look at the Saints.
Right.
Saints, it was right away. You know, third game, you're starting to get the injuries. Eric McCoy went down, and basically that's where it all started from there. Derek Carr went down in Game 5. It went down from there. Zion, how many times is he going to get hurt, either before the season or right after the season starts? Same with Brandon Ingram. I mean, what's the percent? I don't know the answer to this, but it's got to be, Garland, it's got to be around 30%, the number of games that B.I. and Zion have played together since they got here.
Oh, gosh, it might not be 30%.
I mean, is it less than that?
Even this season, they barely played together. It's been an absolute mess with the amount of injuries they've had. It's sad that Zion Williamson played most of last season, and then when it mattered most, he got hurt. Was that two? That's right, it was 2 seasons ago.
2 seasons ago.
Yeah.
Right. But again, to your point, plays almost the entire season last year. When it's time to go to the playoffs, he's injured.
Right.
Yeah.
It derailed any opportunity at that point.
Maybe the Smoothie King Center was built on an old Indian burial ground.
It was.
Possibly.
It was, but
maybe.
At the same time, again, you cannot build. And look, they tried. The experiment has failed. Okay, you cannot build around two guys who are not available. And that's just that is. You got a budding star in Trey Murphy, okay? Murray looks like they got a pretty good team right now. Again, even without a Brandon Ingram.
I mean, it's even you can look at a team like the Lakers. I mean, they wanted AD so bad. AD never changed. He's always going to be hurt for part of a season. It's hard to win when, it's great to have LeBron, but you got to have two guys, as you say. It's great to have LeBron, but AD, when you're hurt for 30 games a year, same thing with the Lakers. So look at the teams that win. They win because their guys don't get hurt.
Let's talk some football here before we get to college basketball. LSU, NIL, what they've done in the transfer portal in this offseason. Your thoughts?
Ohio State went all in NIL this past season, $20 million in NIL, won a national championship. Brian Kelly out of nowhere and the last game of the regular season against Texas A&M against Oklahoma said he was taking receipts. They were going to be the national championship. I had no idea what the heck he was talking about. Well, he knew something. He knew that the money was coming in. I think they're loaded at some positions now that they weren't before. The wide receiver spot is one of the best receiving cores they've had in a long time. This is college football playoff or bust with this squad. If they don't make the playoffs this year with that unit, it's going to be tough. But week one, they're underdogs. Right now, FanDuel already has week one odds up. They're 2.5 point dogs at Clemson, but they haven't won an opener since 2019 when Joe Burrow was a quarterback. I understand it was against Georgia Southern, and the competition's gotten much higher. They have a tough schedule. But the alumni have answered. Brian Kelly's been moaning and groaning about being competitive off the field and getting the money. They missed out on Bryce Underwood and some other guys. They've come back with vengeance.
No dissent this time. 100% agree. I think everything he said. They basically said, okay. Brian Kelly says, I need money. Alumni says, okay, here's your money and here's your last chance. I mean, so I've been backing Brian Kelly. I still do. I think he's a good coach. I think he certainly has what it takes to win a championship, but I think LSU now, they have to have and not just a playoff season. I think you got to go to at least like the Final Four or something like that kind of season to say it's not a bust. Garrett Nussmeier will go into next season as the favorite to win the Heisman Trophy, or at least that's what he is right now.
Right.
I would imagine that wouldn't change before the season would start. And as Garland says, a wealth of wide receivers, and I think. Even on the defensive end, they got a couple of solid, and solid is it's really better than solid, transfers to come over. So I think LSU's in a position. I think they will have a really good season. And I think when we talk about it in July and we start talking about over-unders, and if the over-under is 9.5 wins, I think, I don't know, I'm not going to
It's 8.5 right now.
It's 8.5 right now. I think now's the time to bet it. I think LSU's going to have a really good season
How
next
about
year.
Tulane? What about what Coach Summerall did in this offseason?
he had to retool his entire roster again, like he did last offseason. I mean, he lost his starting tight end, his starting running back, his starting quarterback. Now he has, I think he did it right. He brought in 3 quarterbacks, and they're going to figure it out, okay? Everybody was flipping out that TJ Finley was coming in, but then they got the guy from Ball State, they got the quarterback from Illinois. I think the guy from Ball State might have the best shot of winning the job. He was the
Mike New, baby.
Yeah, Mike New coached him at Ball State last year. He was the MAC Freshman of the Year. So they figured out at quarterback what to get a competition. Running back, that's going to be a little tougher. Losing Mekhi Hughes. I mean, he was the #1 transfer portal running back. I think they can contend for an American championship again this season because I think that Summerall is one of the best coaches in America.
Thoughts?
Yeah, I agree, and I think that Summerall is also, he's playing for where is he going next kind of thing. You know, I didn't think he would go anywhere after 1 year, even if he did lose Mensah and Hughes. But I think that this is the year that if he can do it again and have basically a new roster and come back again, and Tulane wins 9 or 10 games and, as Garland says, wins the American Conference, then I think that he's going to have a big leg to stand on and taking that next step in coaching at a young age. And I agree that I think John Summerall is a great young coach, and we're going to be 10 years from now, we'll be talking about him as one of the big ones.
I agree with that. And look, you've had a chance to interview him one-on-one many times. Again,
yeah, he's very accessible to the media. I think he's very savvy about that. He's a really energetic coach. I love talking to him. Willie was a great coach too. Willie was just had a different way of carrying himself.
Old school.
Yeah. Summerall's a younger guy. I mean, he's in his early 40s. Has a ton of energy, and he relates really well to recruits and kids. And they've had the best, I think, recruiting class in the AAC. I think the best transfer portal class this year. So he's doing a good job.
LSU 12-8, 1-6. They lose the #1 Auburn last night. They got Texas on Saturday. Tulane is 11-9, 5-2 in their conference. They got Memphis tonight. Memphis 18th ranked. UNLV's having a really tough year. 4-17, 2-8. SLU on Saturday. The state of college basketball in Louisiana right now.
It's not like, the 80s and 90s and the days when Benny Dees was coaching UNO and Dale Brown was at LSU.
Jim Floyd.
Yeah, those days, and Perry Clark, those days are all gone. I think the best shot we have in this state is just Will Wade and McNeese State of getting a bid. I think that's either 1 or 2 big lead for our state. Maybe Southern is undefeated in the SWAC right now. It's just not the same anymore. Stacey Hollowell, if they get 100 people at the Lakefront Arena, that's a win for them. It's just friends and family over there. I give props to Uptown. They actually look good in conference play. Ron Hunter and them in the non-conference play were getting their butts kicked in. McMahon, this is just going to continue. He got a 7-year contract for a reason. He knew he'd had to keep flipping over the roster. They thought they were going to be kicked out of the NCAA tournament for a year for past transgressions. That never happened. The SEC, I think, is going to get 13 teams in the. It's
amazing. The best conference in basketball.
It would be unprecedented. It'd be the most ever for one conference, 13 teams. So it's a great conference.
And one of them won't be LSU.
One of them will not be LSU. John Calipari's struggling majorly at Arkansas. I think he's kind of done with. So no, it's going to be a very quiet March on the men's side. The only thing we'll have to look forward to in March is Kim Mulkey and the ladies.
Yeah, right. And of course Xavier, what they're doing again in NAIA right now as well. Undefeated, if I'm not mistaken, right? The Xavier women. Xavier women are undefeated, and Southeastern's women are playing well as well.
Southeastern's women are playing well, and so the women definitely highlight the basketball experience in Louisiana right now. But look, we talked about it off the air as far as LSU goes, and it not being the same. Here's another thing that's not the same. I mean, it takes me half a year to figure out who the heck's playing for LSU. I mean, I'm like, okay, they look pretty good. I like the effort, and I think they're doing as well as they can do. But I mean, you can't have a whole turn. You can't have 5 new players every year and expect any kind of consistency.
Well, Kentucky did it.
This isn't. Well, I was going to say that's about to say. I mean, this isn't Kentucky, and it's not Duke. And even Duke gets some players to come back. You get 1 or 2 to come back, and Kentucky usually gets 1 or 2.
But isn't that where we are now, though, Jim? I mean, isn't this the era of, again, unlimited transfer, NIL? Who's the highest bidder at this point? I mean, isn't this what we're going to see?
Yeah, but if you're
especially in basketball where you only need 12
I just think
to 15
at an LSU
players.
there's no reason why you can't find a way to get yourself. I'm not saying that LSU is ever going to be a perennial top 15 kind of team, but there's no way, especially with the LSU women doing what they do. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me why you can't be one of those perennial go to the tournament teams. You know, you're a 5 seed this year, next year you're an 8 seed, whatever, but you always find a way to get in. I mean, it's like now LSU gets in and we celebrate. Okay, we get to watch them for Thursday night, and that's it, and they're gone. I mean, and even at that, or they might go to the NIT. It's just something needs to change. I don't know how to change it, but baseball does well every year. Football, for the most part, does well every year. Women's basketball is doing well every year. Why softball does well every year?
Gymnastics.
Why can't men's gymnastics? Why can't men's basketball at LSU perennial be good? And I don't know what the answer is.
Do you have an answer for that?
Recruiting in Louisiana is very fruitful when it comes to football. Kids in Louisiana just don't care about basketball that much.
Yeah,
the best recruit we had this year, Chris Sinek, left Newman and went to Branson, Missouri as a 5-star. The best players will just leave if they get really good. Corey Chest, who's on LSU's team right now, left McMain after his junior year to go to another basketball factory. We just don't care about basketball in Louisiana on the high school level. This is a football state, and I think that hurts LSU a lot.
Yeah, to your point, and I think it's valid because, again, if you remember the glory years of LSU with Dale Brown, he would always, again, be a guy that would recruit nationally, but he always had that core of players from Louisiana that he could count on every single year.
Yeah, no, I guess you could say Corey Chest is from Louisiana. He came back and he was born and bred. Dale Brown, if you'd have taken his recruiting prowess and then have another guy that was X's and O's, I mean, they'd have had a dynasty.
That's why they had Rob Abernathy.
Yeah.
Best attitude podcast ever. Dale Brown, I had him on a couple years ago, and I expected him to come on and talk 15 minutes. He talked for an hour, and I couldn't even stop him, and it was phenomenal.
Yeah.
He still hates the NCAA as much as he hated him back then.
How far ahead of his time was he? When you look at, again, what the NCAA, what college athletics has become today based on what he was trying to do when he was head coach of LSU.
Yeah, what he called him the
Gestapo bastard.
Everything he wanted was the precursor of what we're seeing now.
Okay. And he said it again, like he still says it. He still calls him that.
Yeah, no doubt.
But he was 100% right, and we just didn't okay, it's Dale Brown being Dale Brown. But he was right.
No, 100%. He was. And again, you see what it is now. Now, of course, I think a lot of people like to see maybe some little bit of controls on what we have now in terms of unlimited transfer, and of course, the money what it is. But again,
there's got to be some way to institute rules that are legal. I mean, the problem is everyone's scared of lawyers. The NCAA got themselves into this mess because they didn't want to give players money, which was the dumbest thing ever. They're the ones making you the money. Give them something, for God's sake.
Right, exactly.
And you wouldn't have put yourself in this position. So now they had to open themselves up to, okay, do whatever you want. And there's no happy medium. There's we put the iron fist to do whatever you want, and somewhere in the middle is the right answer. And I hope that they care enough to find the right answer, because right now all they care about is money.
Well, my guess is Congress gets involved, right? I mean, I don't see the NCAA legislating this. I think, again, it's got to come from outside.
I mean, now they're getting extra years of eligibility because they played JUCO beforehand.
Yeah.
This is like Pavia at Vanderbilt getting more years.
I mean, you're going to be able to play for a decade, I mean, just crazy.
I mean, TJ Finley, it seems like I was covering him at Ponchatoula 12 years ago.
Right.
Still in it, baby.
I know. And look, I love TJ Finley, but I'm just saying they shouldn't be able to play that long.
And he's got his 5th school in 5 years, and there's a possibility where he could play for a 6th school in his 6th year next year.
Wow.
So there you go.
Unreal. Jim, Derry, Garland, Gillen, thanks so much for joining us here on the panel today, and a great job as always. Really enjoyed having you guys on the show together. All right, thanks so much for tuning in. Remember, there's so many ways to catch our program now. There's a QR code on your screen. Go ahead and put the phone up on that. Click on the QR code. It'll take you again to my website, ericasher.com, WLAE-TV YouTube channel, between Pelican Sports Television, WLAE-TV 2, WLAE-TV, and of course, again, our YouTube channel. Plenty of ways to catch our program each and every week. Catch me on the radio, 106.1 The Ticket. You can listen live at ericasher.com. Also, the 106.1 The Ticket has their own app. I'm on 4 to 6 weekdays. Again, iHeartRadio app, TuneIn Radio app. Also, again, ways to catch the program. And of course, we always want to make sure, again, that we thank our underwriters who make this show possible. Please support the underwriters who support our program. And And of course, as always, we thank the production staff here at WLAE, do a fantastic job producing our program each and every week. Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, Thomas Healy, Alicia Cohn, and the best director on the planet, William Hill. For Jim Derry and Garland Gillen, I'm Eric Asher. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week for another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports.
Do you love sports? Then you should know about STEM. Because maximizing nutrition, analyzing peak muscle performance, calculating the perfect shot, and more are all made possible by science, technology, engineering, and math. In fact, there are more careers than ever in sports science. So if you have a passion for sports, then think about getting involved in STEM and improve everyone's game on and off the field. Get inspired at shecanstem.com.
I am a faith-filled servant leader.
I am curious and one of a kind.
I am innovative.
I am the connection between my school and my community.
I am fearless in the face of adversity. I am a PJP Jaguar.
We're local and educational. You're watching WLAE-TV, celebrating 40 years of New Orleans public television.